Hello everybody, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about England's 26-man squad that Gareth Southgate selected at 5pm last night. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes, but he had to select 26 players that he thought could travel Europe and give us the best chance in, ultimately, I don't know what each and everyone's expectations are for this tournament, but doing well, doing successful. You define successful for England. I don't know. It's quite a difficult one, isn't it? But ultimately, he feels like that's the best 26-man squad to compete in this competition. I'm so excited for it. We've had a few weeks now without football, European football, English football. It's all been put to one side. We're now focusing on this tournament, preparing ourselves for what hopefully will be a really, really good tournament. We are outside, as you can very clearly see, and it is a little bit windier today, so yeah, it could be all over the shop, but ultimately, hopefully the audio and everything else is okay. We're going to talk about the 33-man squad as well, the provisional squad that was on, it was last week, and then obviously he cut that down by 7 as well. I'm not going to go through everything in terms of every single player, because there are some players that, of course, no doubt was going to this tournament anyway. There was no chance of them being cut out, but I feel like we've got to touch on a few of them, because there are a few controversial points that Gareth Southgate ultimately had to decide on, and like I said right at the start, I would not want to be in his shoes, because there's some big decisions that had to be made that he felt that, you know, ultimately he has to be confident in his own thoughts. He has to be confident in what he has to do. It's a very opinionated, very opinionated decision to make. Everyone will have their own different opinions. Everyone will have their own sort of thoughts on this 26-man squad, but we have no say in it. All we can do is talk about it, react to it, and it's actually Gareth that can make, of course, that ultimate decision. So we'll start off then with the sort of the basics of that 33-man squad without boring you already and going through every single player. The players ultimately, we had 4 goalkeepers, and the reason for that 33-man squad was generally because Gareth wanted to make sure a few things were okay in terms of injuries, in terms of match sharpness, and ultimately it was mainly down to injuries, and of course they had the Champions League final as well in between the 33-man squad, obviously yesterday's announcement. That's a Champions League final, of course, Manchester City against Chelsea in that, with a lot of English players playing in that. So we wanted to sort of see how the recovery and the injury situation came through that as well, and probably once again look at the form of those players and see which position he was at when selecting those players. The main goalkeepers, of course, the four goalkeepers that he picked, we always knew he was only going to take 3, but he picked 4 for this one. That was going to be Dean Henderson, Jordan Pickford, Sam Johnston and Aaron Ramsdale. It was pretty self-explanatory that when cutting that, there was always going to be one goalkeeper. And for me, I think it was pretty likely that it was going to be Aaron Ramsdale. You know, he's had a pretty difficult season for Sheffield United, getting relegated. He was relegated with Bournemouth the year before that, relegated with Sheffield United this year, so it's difficult. It was a difficult one for him, but ultimately he is not going to make the 26-man squad, but fair play to him. You know, he's made the 33-man squad. Where he's going to be next season, if he has a very good championship season, who knows if he could maybe get in with that free from the next major tournament. Of course, it's only next year, the World Cup, so he's got a really good chance of getting into that. So interesting stuff for Aaron Ramsdale, and hopefully for him, you know, he can make his way. But he doesn't make it in the 26-man squad. He was one of the 7 players that Gareth Southgate cut out yesterday. So yeah, that's one of 7. There is a few more, 6 more to go, of course, and 6 big decisions to be made. He wants to set the best team possible, the best squad possible, and 6 more need to be cut out. In terms of the defenders, then we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, which was a little bit of a controversial spot. Was he going to take 4 right-backs? Was he going to take 3 right-backs? Was he going to take 2 right-backs? I don't think he was ever going to take 2. It's a matter of whether he was going to take 3 or 4. We'll come to that in a minute. Spoiler alert, he took 4. Harry Mcguire was one of those where if he was fit, he was always going to go. So ultimately, Harry Mcguire, he is fit. He looks like he is going to be involved in the games, the international friendlies we've got. We've got one tonight, and then one in a few days' time. Then, of course, it's about a week, and then we're playing our first game against Croatia on the 13th on Friday. So make sure you subscribe for that. Make sure you subscribe, because we'll be doing match reactions. We're going to be doing so much content, European stuff. I'm in the mood. I'm in the feeling for European content. So much coming your way content-wise. So make sure you subscribe, because you don't want to miss out on the stuff we're doing. Live streams, we're going to be doing recorded ones like this, so much coming up, and that's even just to get to the Euros. When the Euro starts, you do not want to miss out, so make sure you subscribe now so you don't forget, and leave a like, turn the notification bell on as well, so you never miss a podcast episode when we go live or a recorded one just like this. But like I said, Harry Mcguire is one of those players where if he's fit, he's always going to go. He's had a very good second half of the season, pretty much since Christmas. First half of the season was a little bit iffy, but second half generally got the rhythm going, and since he's been injured, we've seen that Manchester United defence really shake up a little bit, really sort of, you know, we can see when he's missing, we can see where he's missing, we see the holes, the gaps in that defence without Harry Mcguire. So it's very interesting to see. A lot of people were doubting Harry Mcguire. However, clearly, you know, let's not get too over the top about him as a defender. I think he's still got a lot to learn, still got a lot got to play for. I think he'd be even better with a better centre-back next to him for Manchester United in particular. But, we've proved and he's shown that he's a very, very important player for Manchester United. So if he was going to be fit, he was always going to be in that 26-man squad. He is in that 26-man squad. Gareth Southgate did select him yesterday. That's good signs for him. We've already mentioned about Trent. We'll come on to Trent and the other right-backs in a second. Kieran Tripper will come on to him. Kyle Walker will come on to him. Connor Cody, an interesting one as well. He does make the 26-man squad. It was going to be difficult. Was Connor Cody going to make it? Was he not going to make it? A bit of a difficult season for him at Wolves, but ultimately he has made that 26-man squad. He is one of the 4 centre-backs that we've selected for this tournament. I believe it's 4. Is it 4 centre-backs? And then obviously we've got a right-back. We won't spoil 2 right-backs, you could probably say, that can play centre-back as well. So ultimately we've got about 6 centre-backs and 4 right-backs, if you put it like that. We've got Ben Chilwell as well, who did make it. It was always going to be him and Shaw as the 2 left-backs. If I was going to select it, that's what I would have done. I think he had no choice but to do that. Ben Chilwell has been very, very good in his first year for Chelsea, but Luke Shaw has been in the form of his life. So there's no doubt that he's going to start, but really, really impressed with Luke Shaw, really, really impressed with Ben Chilwell, and ultimately they are the 2 players and 2 left-backs that will be travelling in that 26-man squad for the Euros this summer. We've also got Reece James as well. We'll come on to him. He's another one of the right-backs that we love talking about. Ben Godfrey misses out, and for me, very, very controversial, Ben Godfrey missing out. I'll come on to why that is in a minute, because there's another player, Tyrone Mings, John Stones and Ben White are the other lot. Now, John Stones is always going to go. John Stones has had an absolute revelation of a season for Manchester City. He's been pretty much off the boil, off the first team spots, not getting the opportunities for Manchester City as a first team player for a few seasons. Pep Guardiola didn't trust him, didn't play him. It was a big fee from Everton to Manchester City a few years ago. Wasn't really in favour. He's come in this season and he's been absolutely fantastic. I think we've got to be a little bit careful about how we maybe overrate him and get a bit over the top about him, but let's not take away what a season he's had for, as John Stones as a player. He has been fantastic, and my thoughts on that was, if he's fit, which we always knew he was going to be, he wasn't one of the doubts. If he's ready, if he's in that squad where we play a 3-back or a 4-back, or 3 centre-backs or 2 centre-backs, he's got to go. He's a fantastic player. It's a great season for City, and he is going in that 26-man squad. There's no real doubt there. But the other centre-backs, Ben White, Tyrone Mings and Ben Godfrey, 2 of them missed out. 2 of them missed out. In the end, we took 4 centre-backs. So we took 4 out-and-out centre-backs, if you like. We didn't, that's excluding the right-backs that can transfer into centre-backs and can play in those multiple positions. So we took Harry Maguire, we took Tyrone Mings, we took Connor Cody, and we took John Stones. So that does mean Ben White and Ben Godfrey. And we took Connor Cody, like I said, as well. So it's actually Ben Godfrey and Ben White that miss out, if I'm not wrong. Yes, it is that is right. I'm just making sure. Ben Godfrey, Ben White miss out, which for me, that one's a bit of a strange one. Tyrone Mings is in there. I don't not rate Tyrone Mings, but if we're comparing centre-back to centre-back, who's had a better season, if we're going off form, for me, surely Ben Godfrey has to go in that 26-man squad. Maybe not as a starter, but he's surely a player that we've got to look at that centre-back. I mean, we clearly looked at him. He's in that 33 provisional squad. But let's take him to the competition, because if we're going off form, he's been fantastic for Everton this season. He's been very, very good. He made for that move from Norwich to Everton. He had a really decent first season, even though he got relegated with Norwich the season before last, and then this season as well, or last season, whatever you want to call it, has finished now. He's really, really, he did a fantastic job, at Everton as an Everton centre back, and it was a bit of an iffy season for Everton. He started off very, very good, and then sort of fell off a cliff slightly, but generally he was a very, very consistent performer. And for me, if we're looking at Tyrone Mings to Ben Godfrey, for me, like I said, this is not nothing against Tyrone Mings as a player, but if we're comparing, which is what you've got to do, you've got to weigh up the players against each other when we're selecting a squad like this. Surely, for me, it's going to be Ben Godfrey over Tyrone Mings if we're going off form, if we're going off the last season, because I think Ben Godfrey's been much better than Tyrone Mings this season. I'm not going to lie and pretend like I've watched every Aston Villa and Everton game. From what I've seen from quite a lot of the games I have seen from those 2 players, Ben Godfrey's been a standout. And what I'm hearing from Everton fans, they know best, of course, when we're looking at Ben Godfrey. They've been very, very, very impressed with his first season as an Evertonian. And then when we look at Tyrone Mings as well, I wouldn't say he's had a bad season, but like I said, if we're comparing the 2, I think Ben Godfrey should be in there. But he's gone with Tyrone Mings. I think the reason for that is also because of experience, you could say. Because ultimately, Tyrone Mings is probably, I think he's probably had like 4 call-ups, 4 like main senior caps, if you like, which is fair enough. If you're going off experience, you go off experience. But if we're going off centre-backs and we're going off the best, informed players, for me it's got to be Ben Godfrey. I'm pretty sure Ben Godfrey probably would have played, one senior cap, 2 senior caps at maximum, so you can understand that. But really, it's probably only going to be, just 2 more caps than each other. So even that is an interesting one, but we won't drag into that too much, of course. It's only a centre-back, but that could be an interesting talking point. If Tyrone Mings and we struggle with centre-backs defensively, there will be big question marks talking about Ben Godfrey potentially going, because he was very, very good. Anyway, Ben White missed out. I'm not too surprised about Ben White missing out, if I'm being honest. I'm not. I think Ben White's had a good season. He had a good season last year at Leeds, on loan then, and this season he's been good. He hasn't been outstanding, but he's good in a decent Brighton side this year. He looks like a player that still got a lot to learn, still got a lot to develop. I think in time will be a very, very good player. I'm excited to see the development of Ben White, but right now I don't think he's there. If you look at other centre backs going, not too much complaints about Connor Cody going. I'm not going to lie. I think Connor Cody's a player that was very, very good for Wolves. I was impressed with him at Wolves, in the last few seasons there. This season's been a difficult one for Wolves, losing their manager at the end of the season, but generally it was one of those seasons where they weren't as good as they have been, if you like. But Connor Cody's the captain there. He's a very, very good centre-back. There's no doubt there. Whether or not he plays a free, he could be in that free as a starting centre-back. I'm not sure. For me, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably go towards playing Kyle Walker to centre-back. We won't get into that today. That probably could be a separate podcast episode. Looking at that squad, what's he going to go with? What would I go with? But generally, if we're looking at the squad, Connor Cody, no complaints there. He's going in the 26-man squad. I'm quite happy with that. It's more that the Godfrey Ming situation that interests me more. Let's look at right backs then, because we will come on to that. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kieran Tripper, Kyle Walker, and Reece James, of course, were all the right backs that were in that 33-man squad. He selected all 4 right backs. They can play in other positions, but generally for their club and country, they have played either right back or right wing back for the majority of the campaign, or left back a little bit for Kieran Tripper at Atletico Madrid, but mainly right back, if we're being honest. He took 4, and there was a lot of controversy there, even in a 33-man squad. He's taken 4 right-backs in a 26-man squad, which, of course, was probably the biggest, probably did spark the most debate, if we're being quite honest with you. He's a player, he's a manager that ultimately, Gareth Southgate, he can see that he wants to probably play those players in those versatility, in those versatile positions. He's going to play at right-back, Alexander-Arnold. He can also play a little bit in centre midfield. He's never played in centre mid, so I don't think we're going to see that. Probably did his youth days, but certainly not for Liverpool this season as a senior player. But anyway, right back, right wing back, he can play in that. Kyle Walker can play centre back, right wing back. Reece James can play on the right side of a centre back. We saw him do very, very well in the Champions League final and the FA Cup final, keeping Jamie Vardy and Sterling completely at bay. So very, very good from him as a centre back. So they can play in those roles. Kieran Tripper offers that left wing back, right wing back cover as well. So you can understand why he's done it. You can understand that he's got that versatility in those right backs. There is question marks though. Do we need 4 right backs? Do we need to be taking 4 right backs when we could be taking, given an opportunity to the likes of maybe the other players we'll miss out that we'll come on to as well? Could there be space that could be freed up if we're not taking 4 right fullbacks? And for me, that is certainly a question mark that Gareth Southgate is going to have to answer. And the only way he can really answer that, to be honest, is is in these next, is in the tournament, and if they have a good tournament, if it works, and the versatility situation that he's gone with does work, then it's going to be applauded. It's going to be a genius move, but it is a bit, risky. He said he'd take six fullbacks if he could. I think he was slightly. I hope he was joking, because if he took 6 fullbacks, I think he probably would have been sacked for a ball was kicked as England manager. But ultimately, he has taken 4. I like them. They're all 4 very, very good players. They are different players. They can play in different positions. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see what he does with that. But ultimately, he's taken that, and that's what he's gone with. The question for me is that the right decision, yes or no? I'm going to go with yes, but not 100%. It's very, very close 50-50, but I'm edging towards yes, because there is versatility there. If there are 4 out-and-out right-backs that can only play there, then there'd be a no there, but they can play in other positions. You can understand the decision there. They've been good form, all of them, pretty much this season, other than Trent Alexander-Arnold, you could argue, hasn't the best of seasons, but last year, he was absolutely outstanding for Liverpool, and the season before that as well, in the Champions League season when they won that, he was incredible. He's been fantastic for Everton last season. A little bit of an off-season this year, but all players have that. And it's quite unlucky for him, obviously, having the tournament being moved. There was no doubt that he'd be the starting right-back. No doubt about that if it was when it was meant to last season. Now it's this year. He was going to have to hang on to his players a little bit because of the quality of the other fullbacks we've seen and the other players we've seen this year. And he has had a little bit of an off-season. But ultimately, it doesn't matter for Trent. He is going, and he is part of that 26-man squad travelling to the Euros this summer. We talked quite a lot about the defenders because there are quite a few defenders. We won't go as much detail for the other ones because there are players, again, in those midfield spots that are always going to be guaranteed a spot. We'll talk about the players that have gone. Declan Rice, he has to go. He had to go. He did go. There's no doubt there. I think Declan Rice is going to be a pivotal player in this tournament. I love what he's done. I love what we've seen from him for West Ham in these previous years. I love Declan Rice. I think he's a fantastic, outstanding player. He's shown for West Ham, getting him into the Europa League spots this season shows how important he is. There's no doubt that he was going. He is going. Jude Bellingham, the 17-year-old Dortmund player, fantastic in the Bundesliga this year, but also as well when he's given opportunities, especially when I think about Dortmund and Bundesliga, Dortmund and Jude Bellingham this season. I think the Champions League against Manchester City, how phenomenal he was then as well. He's done it in an England shirt as well when he's had those sort of brief call-ups that we've seen from him, and maybe not as much as a senior cap. When we look at his youth days as an England player, he has always shown that he's a fantastic player. And again this year, playing in Dortmund, that move at 17-year-old lad from Birmingham to Dortmund, it's not a local transition if you think about it for a young lad like that. He's only 1 year older than me, and he's playing in a Europa League, European Championships in this summer. He's also played Champions League football, and he's a first teamer. You could argue. I don't know if he's a first teamer week in, week out, but he's certainly a first team player for Dortmund in the Bundesliga. It's incredible the age. It's incredible the talent. I'm so impressed with him. So Jude Bellingham will be going to the Euros this summer. Very, very impressed with that. I'm very, very impressed with Jude Bellingham and his development as a player, and he will be going to the tournament. Jordan Henderson, then, he was a bit of a touch-and-go player, Jordan Henderson, if you think about it. He was a player that, he was a little bit in doubt. The reason why we took that 33-man squad was due mainly because of the fact that we needed to check the fitness of these players. However, he was on the bench. He was an unused substitute against Crystal Palace, against Liverpool on the final day of the season, and he looks like he's okay. He looks like he's, they're monitoring the workload and the training load of Jordan Henderson, but he is in that squad. Like I said, if he was a player that was there, and if he was fit, he has to be there. He's a fantastic player. I really like Jordan Henderson. There's a lot of doubts about him in his previous years at Liverpool. It's only recently, really, that people have put some real, well-deserved respect on Henderson's name, the captain of Liverpool. We know the experience he's got. He has got England experience as well. Jordan Henderson, no doubt, he's going with Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice. Mason Mount, the next one then. Mason Mount, what a season he's had for Chelsea. He deserves to go. I'm not going to go too much detail about Mason Mount. We know the qualities. You only have to watch a few games for Chelsea with Mason Mount playing to know and see the quality that man offers. He's been fantastic this year. He's been fantastic when he was at when he was with Lampard. There's a lot of jokes about Gareth Southgate and Mount, a lot of question marks there surrounding, is he really good or is he just a very, very nice, got a good personality and a bit of a work hard, but has he got the quality of those players? I think he's shut all those doubters up, really, to be fair. When we look at the quality he's shown, we look at what he does off the ball, he does on the ball, he drags players out, he creates room for the other players to move into, he's great in transition, he's great on the ball, off the ball. So honestly, he's a fantastic player, and Mason Mount, no doubt, has to go and is going. Let's talk about then the next player and the final player in this list of midfielders that are going, and that is Calvin Phillips. Now, for me, this one's a very, very strange one. We know Calvin Phillips, is a very, very good player. We've seen him for Leeds over the past few seasons. We know how good he is. We know what he can offer. He's a bit more defensive midfielder. He plays a little bit deeper, a little bit of a holding midfield, if you like. And what he does with Bielsa, to play under Bielsa, you have to be a hard worker. You have to be relentless in what you do. And I think Calvin Phillips definitely does do that. Let's look at the players that hasn't gone. Then we'll come on to Calvin Phillips again. You'll probably see where I'm going with this. James Ward-Prowse is not going to the Euros in that 26-man squad. That man has been robbed, in my opinion, of a spot. I think he's been very, very good in those past few years of Southampton. I'd say he's been outstanding as a captain for them. Like I said, I saw someone say, is there a little bit of a big club mentality there where, he's playing for Southampton. It's not as glamorous of the big clubs. And I think that has a little bit of a point, but when we're looking at Calvin Phillips, does Leeds have that? Is Leeds Southampton? And as the size of the club, it probably is Leeds, to be fair. But Calvin Phillips, James Ward-Prowse, I don't know. I really don't know. For me, I like both of them. I think they offer both different things, and they're not the same player. Calvin Phillips is a little bit more defensive, in my opinion. James Ward-Prowse is a little bit more box to box, but I don't know about that. I think set pieces for James Ward-Prowse is massive, but he's gone ultimately with Calvin Phillips. This is my reaction to it. This is what I think about it. I think James Ward-Prowse has been robbed of a spot. Not necessarily as a straight swap for Calvin Phillips, but we're looking at those other players as well. I think he's probably the closest player to swap with him. Jesse Lingard misses out as well, and he's the last player of those midfielders not to go. So it's only two players in those midfield spots that don't go, and that's Jesse Lingard and James Ward-Prowse. How do I feel about that? I think he's had a very, very good second half of the season for Jesse Lingard. However, he has to. When we look at these players, they've done it for a few seasons now. They've done it for seasons on end, and they've done it for a large amount of time. If we're going off half a season, if we're going off one to a half a season, Jesse Lingard's that first player in the squad, because what he's done in recent form and in recent weeks and recent months is absolutely outstanding. The energy on the pitch, off the pitch as well. We're talking about the camp as well. These players are going to be in a COVID bubble camp, so you do want the best. You want the best energy, you want the best atmosphere around in the camp, and Jesse Lingard will definitely bring that. He seems a very, very bubbly guy. He's a very, very funny guy, and he seems like just a very, very nice, just a nice lad and a good player to have around the camp. However, obviously you've got to be looking at on the pitch as well. And if we look at the second half of the season, he has been outstanding. If you compare the players that are going, what they've done for the past 2-3 seasons, you have to understand that Jesse Lingard, it's a little bit of a difficult one. There maybe are a few players that you could argue that he could have gone in front of, but ultimately you do need to. Jesse Lingard has been good, but has he done enough to go the full way and go and get a spot guaranteed just for what he's done in the second half of the season? There certainly is a question mark there. I'm not necessarily saying no, because I think what he has done has been very, very good. But yeah, ultimately, Gareth, the man that's got the biggest decision on it, biggest decisions and the most important decision, thinks not. So we'll go with that, and that's what he's gone with. So Jesse Lingard and James Ward-Prowse, the two players in those midfield, that 33-man squad, that are cut out. So now, when we look at the players that have been cut out, we've seen Aaron Ramsdale be cut out. That's one. We've seen Ben Godfrey miss out, that's 2. We've seen Ben White, that's 3. We've seen James Ward-Prowse, that's 4. We've seen Jesse Lingard, that's 5. So that's 2 more players in the forwards that are going to be cut out, and let's see who they are going to be, and who is going and who isn't. So, moving on then to the forwards, you can see Harry Kane, no doubt, he's going to be the captain, he's going to be the number 9. If you're a number 9 behind Harry Kane, you're probably not going to get as much game time as maybe other positions, because Harry Kane is going to be leading the line in all the games you'd probably like to see and like to think. He's a fantastic player, one of the best European players in the world. I'd probably say he's probably the best striker in Europe this season. I think he's been absolutely outstanding. We know what Harry Kane can do. Why are we even talking about him? He's unbelievable. He's the best player, in my opinion, in this squad. So, Harry Kane, we don't need to talk about that. He's always going to go. He is going, of course. Marcus Rashford, another one of those players where we don't really need to talk about him. We don't really need to talk about him because he's a player that was always going to go. I like Marcus Rashford. I think in recent weeks he's been a little bit off it. I think he probably is carrying an injury from what it looks like. And we will come on to injuries and players missing out because they want to focus on recovery. Marcus Rashford could have been one of those players. However, we compare to him, and I'll say it, Mason Greenwood. He has actually left the squad, and he decided to leave the squad, is what we're hearing, because he wants to recover from a recurring injury. So that's interesting to hear. Could Marcus Rashford have done that? Because we understand he probably is carrying an injury, like Mason Greenwood. However, I don't think he was going to do that. Mason Greenwood, Marcus Rashford, they're in very different stages of their career. Mason Greenwood is a young lad that's probably got 3-4 more tournaments in him as a player, probably closer to 4. Maybe 3, actually. You think about it, they come every 2 years. But, probably about 3 or 4. Marcus Rashford's probably got 3 in him. No, I'd say Mason Greenwood's probably got 4 or 5. Probably 4 or 5, and I'd probably say Marcus Rashford probably got 3, 4, more in him as well. So, you got to think about that as a player. You got to think about, where you want to go, in your career, and if you want to do that and take that risk to take away, and maybe focus on your club. But a tournament like this, you can't argue with that. In Marcus Rashford, you want to play for your club, you want to play for your country, and when an opportunity like this to play in a European Championship, you're always going to take that. But he was always going to go. Marcus Rashford, on his day, can perform moments of brilliance. In recent weeks, though, I think he has been a little bit off the boil. But generally, though, we know the qualities of Marcus Rashford. He was always going to go. I'm happy with that. No complaints from me there. Jadon Sancho as well, a player that was always going to go. He's been very, very good for Dortmund this season. Will he be ended up playing with Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood next season? Well, of course, the summer we'll have to find out. But ultimately, when we're focused on the country, and hopefully everyone is focusing on their country work, and there are probably a few players in the squad that could be looking at moves away from their club. Hopefully, everyone's in the right mindset of playing and looking at the country. And Jadon Sancho is probably going to be one of them. There's going to be quite a lot of transfer speculation surrounding him, but he was always going to go. He's a great player. He's been fantastic for at Dortmund this season and the season before that as well. We know the quality, we know the brilliance in Jadon Sancho. He was always going to go. No complaints from me there. Raheem Sterling, again, he was always going to go. A very, very good player. Once again, they're all very, very good players. They're playing international for England, and you look at the players that they're missing out. There's some fantastic players that aren't going. So these are all very, very good players. I'm just trying to think of a different word to describe these players. They're all outstanding at what they do. Of course, Raheem Sterling, title winner this season for Manchester City. I don't think it's been his best season in a good City side, to be honest with you. But ultimately, I don't think he's going to start. I don't think he will start. he might start. I don't think he should, though. I don't think he's been good. I think there are players that should be ahead of him, but he was always going to go. Again, he offers that experience. He's played in a few championships and World Cups now for England, so he definitely deserves that spot. Ollie Watkins is the first player to miss out of this squad. There's two more that miss out, and Ollie Watkins is one of those. Unlucky, I'd say. But ultimately, when we talk about the number 9 spot, Harry Kane, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is going, are you going to get that much game time as a number 9, as an out-and-out number 9 when you're behind Harry Kane? You're probably not, So you've got to look at it like that. He's only had one season in the Premier League. It's a good season for Villa, no doubt there, but he probably does need to do it a few more seasons. Next year, big season. We then look about the World Cup. Where does he stand there? He probably has got a bigger, probably got something else to look at. But ultimately, I like the look of him, but not this time. He's missed out. Phil Foden, always going to go. Let's not even talk about him. He's outstanding. He's the difference between us actually doing well in this tournament and actually giving us a real chance of winning this tournament. Dare I say it? I think Phil Foden is an incredible player. Bukayo Saka, there's going to be question marks whether he was going to go or wasn't going to go. He is going. Very, very exciting for Arsenal fans and for Bukayo Saka. I'm going to try and get it out and try and pronounce his name right. Saka, he is going. A very, very good player. No complaints from me there. Maybe there could have been other players that could have gone ahead of him. Mason Greenwood, maybe. But if Greenwood's left because of injury, then I think Saka deserves that spot. He's been very, very good for Arsenal. Like I said, he's been a shining light in a poor Arsenal side. I like Saka. He is going. Jack Grealish, no doubt. I think I worry about his injuries slightly, but generally as a player, I love Jack Grealish. What we've seen from him as a Villa shirt is absolutely outstanding. I love Jack Grealish. He's going. I think he should be a start in my opinion, but we've got to look at the injury situation as well, because he was one of those players that they are looking at injury-wise, but he is going. Happy with that. Mason Greenwood missed out. We've already spoken about that. He's focusing on an injury that he's apparently been recovering from, and has been looking at for a while. He's taken the summer off. It's fair enough. It's very, very professional. It's very, very good from Manchester United point of view. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going as that secondary number 9 behind Harry Kane, which is very, very interesting. That's my reaction to the 26-man squad. That's my reaction to the 7 players cut from that 33-man squad to transfer it into a 26 that Gareth Southgate will be taking to the Euros this summer. Let's see how we do. We'll be doing lots more content surrounding the Euros between now and the start. The 11th of June is the first day, so I'm so excited. Let's keep the momentum. Let's keep the excitement of this tournament going. One thing I would say as well, please make sure you subscribe, because you don't want to miss out on that content. There's so much coming your way. I'm so excited about the future of the pod. I'm so excited about the Euros as well. So much content. Subscribe, leave a like, notification bell, turn that on as well. It's free, it's easy, it's so simple. Make sure you do that. I've been Jack. It's been the Unfound Podcast. This has been my reaction to Gareth Southgate's 26-man squad taking part in the Euros this summer. See you in a bit. Take care.